West Covina City Council meeting of Tuesday, May 3rd. We will begin tonight with our invocation from City Manager Andrew Pasman, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from Councilwoman Sherry Lane. Please rise.
God of holiness and righteousness, we thank you for the blessings that you provide to us each day of our lives. We thank you for our families and our loved ones. We ask that you guide our footsteps so we may act in accordance with your wishes. Forgive us when we fall short of your expectations. Grant our leaders the knowledge to act in a manner which is always pleasing to you, and may the heavens and the earth always declare your glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Will you please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Chairman Herford.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chairman Toohey.
Here.
Councilmember Commissioner Armbruster.
Here.
Councilmember Commissioner Lane.
Here.
Councilmember Commissioner Sanderson.
Here.
Thank you. Reporting out from closed session, City Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there were two items on closed session. The first item was labor negotiations. The City Manager and the City Finance Director gave reports on negotiations with the various employee unions. There was no reportable action on that item. There were two additional items which were actually dealing with the same property on Amar and Azusa. We're considering the improvements to that intersection, and we're negotiating for a right of entry on that property. The report was made on that item by the City Attorney and the City Engineer, and there was no reportable action. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes to the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Toohey.
I'd like to hold over item 6.
Okay, item 6, Finance Department. Any objection to holding that over? City staff, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, we'll hold that item over to the next meeting. Okay, oral communications. I have no cards. Oh, bring it up.
Early. Last time I came here about 7:20, the meeting was all over, but happy times. Early birds, right? Happy times. Things are good. So I just got here, so excuse me.
That's okay, Bruce. We know who you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Okay. Don't forget about it. Okay, everybody knows who I am. Better or worse or whatever. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about lost two citizens, friends of mine. Barney McBride, been in this community a long time, involved in the community, and he even ran for, I remember the time he ran for school board about, I don't know, back in the 80s, mid-80s something, and he lost by one vote. And his friends called up the day after the day of the election about 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock and says, "Hey, that election's next week, is it?" And he said, "No, hey, we forgot. We thought it was next week."
Oh, jeez.
So he didn't make it, but yeah, he did a lot for the community, involved with the kids and everything like that. Also, Ken Chappelle, you know, mayor, councilman, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years. Did a lot for the city, and the spirit, always had a smile. I remember Fred Sykes, myself, and Mario Delfani went up and saw him, and although mentally he was losing it and everything like that, in November, I think he died in March, he always had a smile. So he meant well, he did well for the city. Also, I want to speak about one thing real quick. It's about this thing about Mr. Redholtz talking about Sykes, Mr. Sykes, and just like he made this statement about Mr. Sykes in the paper, but I don't have what when he spoke about Mr. Sykes at the council the other day, I was kind of shocked at the terms he used. And he talked about Mr. Sykes. He has a total disregard for the facts as polling. His desire is to spread lies, mislead, deceive residents in West Covina is frightening. And we spoke to council. He doubled or said twice of that. Real negative adjectives. I don't think they have any place in our city council meetings. I mean, can't say anything positive, the way he interpreted it, and I completely was turned off by the negativity that he was speaking about Mr. Sykes. Mr. Sykes worked for the deputy sheriff for almost 30 years. I mean, he was also a bailiff, and I talked to people who were deputy sheriffs and asked them if they knew him, and some knew him. They said, how was he? He was a good policeman. And I was talking to a man the other day who was a bailiff, and I said, he's telling me about bailiff, because I think he became a bailiff about the time Mr. Sykes did. And he said, yeah, it's pretty tough to be bailiff. It's a highly desired position, and only about 10% of the people get accepted. So I want to go on something else. This one is what it's about. In March, I received a notice from Suburban Water. They were requesting a 39% increase in 2012. This incorrect request has to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission. I could not believe that Suburban Water wants to try to raise our water bills by 39%. I haven't heard of any other local water companies asking for such high increase. I never heard any utility of any type asking for 39%. Suburban said its high costs are driven by the high rate the high rate of increase they're asking for. The governor proclaimed that the drought was over, and because of high amounts of snow and rain received this past rainy season, the reservoirs are full at the highest level in many years. Conversely, some water costs should be less. Also, as told by Suburban, the water company was recently purchased by J.P. Morgan investors. I feel Suburban should have informed their customers that J.P. Morgan purchasing Suburban. If In-N-Out hamburger sold to another company, and that company raised the price of the hamburgers 39%, and then because of competition, In-N-Out would be out of business. Unfortunately, Suburban has no competition. The increase will have a big impact on some of the local governments. West Covina City paid Suburban about $400,000 in 2010, and West Covina School District paid $2,000 and $4,000. Recently, the new rates will be about $156,000 more, 2012 for the city, and $79,000 additional for the school district. It will also be an additional burden for many others, such as those on fixed income and Social Security. I'm sure our city manager is real happy he hears that news, that there's another $156,000 he has to go out and find. So I believe that if J.P. Morgan receives a 39% increase, the higher income will greatly increase the value of Suburban Water. They might then sell Suburban, receive their profits, and leave. The users will be left holding the bag with 40% higher water rates. I believe that users, 77,000, and our elected officials such as school boards, city councils, state senators, and Superman.
Mr. Mayor, the speakers exceed their 5 minutes.
Okay. Can I just finish this sentence?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Should file an appeal to the Public Utilities Commission and attend the public hearings. This includes areas of West Covina, Covina, Glendora, Whittier, Hacienda Heights, La Mirada, and La Puente. We, the people and our politicians, must stand together and fight this huge increase. Basically, we can't do anything ourselves. We can write letters of appeals and things like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's a lot of money. And I haven't heard of anybody else, and I think only way we can win is attend those hearings, have the different politicians express their disapproval. I don't know. The more important is the people. The people are paying this. A lot of people are in fixed income. Of course, it's not a lot to some, but still $250, $300 a year. You're on Social Security. You haven't had a raise for 3 or 4 years. Less money coming out of their pockets that they have for other things. So I really feel the city council should do something, other city councils. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let me conclude oral communications. That's all the speakers we have tonight. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Tui.
I don't disagree at all with what Bruce is talking about, but it's also very important to point out we have 9 different water companies here and around 5 different types. So not all of them even go to the PUC. Unfortunately, some just go to their city. a large portion of our city is, or not, a portion of our city is served by the city of Azusa, city of Covina, where we don't go to PUC to have their rates checked. It's not a public hearing. It's just done at the city council meetings, and we pay the rates. So I'm saying we should look, if we're going to look at water rates, look at all the people that pay it, not just suburban water customers only. Let's find out what the other increases are of the other 8 entities that are in the city that are, you know, see if it's even similar.
Yeah.
31 officials, excuse me, 70% of the water is served by suburban.
I understand that, but the other 30% still count.
Yeah, from my seat, I have no problem writing a letter in opposition to the rate increase. I think it's outrageous, and I don't think they're going to get 39%, I hope, but I will pen a letter from the mayor of West Covina, and not on behalf of the rest of the city council. I'll let each council member make their own decision on that. But anyways, I want to comment too on the negativity. Let me just say that, you know, I don't know if you haven't been here, but there's negativity from Mr. Sykes every meeting. So now this isn't a back and forth, Bruce, but for you to single out Mr. Redholz, who essentially was pointing out some inaccuracies, which I'd be happy to point out too in a letter to the editor, and our city staff would be happy to point out too. That's not negativity, that's argument. I mean, that's discussion. That's what we want to have. We don't want to misinform people. So I would say that, you know, if you're going to say there's negativity, yeah, I've had it for quite a long time. But factual information, I think, is a different issue. So anyways, any other comments? Councilwoman Sanderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was looking up the report that we did receive on the water issue, and I support the mayor in that as well, at saying, why did you file a 39% rate increase? And it's just saying because their production costs. Well, I'd like to be able to say that too in this economy, but people are going to tell me, well, we're going to go use somebody else. So I think there's a big time issue here, and I would strongly support you in that endeavor, and would be willing to put my name on the letter.
Okay,
as well.
thank you. I'll ask each of you to help support. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, that concludes oral communication. And
I think the city
Mr.
manager
Mayor.
had a brief
oh,
comment.
city manager.
Yeah, I think I spoke a little too early on that one item, number 6. I believe there's some a deadline that's coming up on the 13th, and it may require that we at least have a dialogue with the council before we hold that over, unless you're going to call for a meeting before the 13th.
Okay, well, if we need a meeting, then we'll go ahead and do that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Otherwise, we can give you an answer. We can pull that off at the end of the meeting, give you a short report, and then you can decide if you want to hold it over to a special meeting or not.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Let's just hold it over, and then we'll get our questions answered. And if we need a special meeting, we can have it. Okay. Moving on to consent calendar. Is there any other items?
Second. There was a motion, and I'm seconding.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, Councilwoman Lane made a
She was
motion. You
quiet.
guys were speaking so fast, I can't get you here.
I heard.
Okay, so every item except for item 6, moved by Lane, seconded by Sanderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We have a public hearing tonight. This public hearing is on our Community Development Block Grant Program, fiscal year 2011-12. Matter set for public hearing is a consideration of proposed fiscal year 2011-2012 Community Development Block Grant CDBG Action Plan. City Clerk, will you verify proper legal notice has been given?
Yes, that's verified.
Okay, at this time, let's open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2011-2012 CDBG Action Plan. There will first be presentation of the staff report. Then we shall hear comments from the public. Mr. Pasbant, who will present the staff report?
Mr. McDonald will do the report.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The matter before you is the 2011-2012 CDBG Action Plan. Because the city receives an annual grant of CDBG funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, city is required to prepare an annual action plan that details how the grant funds will be spent in the respective year. This is the second of 2 required public hearings. On March 15th, the City Council authorized staff to draft an 11-12 action plan that would be consistent with the approved 2010-2015 consolidated plan priorities and incorporate a continuation of current city programs. The draft action plan and approved consolidated plan priorities are included in this report as attachment numbers 1 and 2 respectively. Notice for this hearing was published on March 23rd, and the draft plan was available for a 30-day public review period as required by HUD. No written public comments were received. The proposed 11-12 action plan budget is detailed in the report. However, it differs from the budget shown in the notice. This is because HUD announced preliminary planning numbers for the 11-12 CDBG grants on April 22nd. The preliminary allocation for West Covina is 16.6% less than the current year's allocation. That's approximately $214,000. Actual allocations will be finalized within the next 30 to 60 days, and they may differ from the preliminary numbers. Within administrative authority, the proposed budgets will be adjusted accordingly on a percentage basis to account for any change. More significant changes may require amending the plan. As the city's budget process moves forward, staff will work towards mitigating fiscal impact to the general fund. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the proposed 2011-2012 CDBG action plan as detailed in attachment number 1. That concludes my report.
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing to public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing and ask for council discussion. Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it, but can I ask one question for information to get back to me?
A motion and a second question.
Since COG is trying to do more to get into doing the housing, affordable housing fund with the industry funds, I believe that's part of their action plan, correct? Item number 6.
Are you looking at me?
Yes.
Yes.
Shouldn't we find out from funds people already have, members of COG, how much have actually spent of their own money before we ask industry or the county for more money, when possibly a majority of the cities that are members of COG don't spend the money they currently have? We're one of the very few cities that have actually used our housing money for affordable housing.
Right.
So I'm saying, are we just trying to get more money to get management fee? And that's not us, it's COG. But I'm concerned if we're just trying to do it to expand management at the COG to administer a housing program where no one wants to do affordable housing. And it's just really a way like the County of Los Angeles has done with the industry funds, and they take over $3 million a year in administration to give all the money to the City of Los Angeles, which was not what was supposed to be done with industry funds. And now I believe, if you see, the City of Los Angeles is currently under investigation with ADI over what a lot of the housing funds have been used for that was supposed to be used for areas near the city of industry. And they've been hijacked to the City of Los Angeles, areas far outside the 15-mile ring of the City of Industry. So I'm just concerned, and currently the City of Industry funds that the county administers, cities outside the City of LA can only ask for a grant of maximum of $2 million, yet the City of Los Angeles can get whatever they want. I'm just concerned to make sure we're all on equal footing, and that we don't have people similar to something Mayor Herford has coming up earlier, to make sure that the City of LA, COG, and the county have to go by the same rules they apply to everyone else. Make sure we have mirror rules, that we all have to abide by the similar rules. I just want to make sure we can contact that to Nick Conway or convey that.
Yeah, if you could give us a memo on that, appreciate that. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mayor and council member reports. Any reports? Okay. Any AB 1, 2, 3, 4 conference meeting reports? Okay. City council request for reports and studies. I put an item on here to ask the council for a staff report. It seems to me that local government has really been in the headlights, which is good. We always want to be in the headlight, and we want to be transparent. And the state government has taken it upon themselves to put a lot of requirements on local government, things such as posting salaries, making sure that we're in compliance with all of the regulations, which is good, and we want to do that, and a lot of transparency issues. And yet the state themselves hides behind many shields. And so in my thinking, they should be held to the same standard that the city should be held to and local government. And what I'd like to do is have staff come back with a report basically outlining some of these items. A recent item that I'll use as an example is a state loan program where they essentially loaned employees money and never collected the money. So our taxpayers' dollars basically went out for a loan, and the statute of limitations ran down and we lost money. If you did that in local government, I think you'd be in a situation where it'd be highlighted like the city of Bell and people would be prosecuted, yet on the state level it's not even a ripple in the water. So, and other things too, when you go to the legislative meetings up there, legislators essentially have a piece of paper that tells them how to vote. Here, you know, if you have 3 people that find consensus before a meeting, that's a violation of the Brown Act. So I think there are some things that staff can research and bring back to the council and we can address. I'd like to ask our local legislators to carry some legislation to introduce it on the state level. So with that, unless there's any other comments,
I'll
make a
second the
motion in a second.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Toohey.
I couldn't concur more, and I wanted to highlight some of those things that Steve said. You hear that both groups up in Sacramento go into caucuses. One caucus is made up of more than a majority of the voting members of the state legislature. They tell you how you're going to vote before you go out in public and vote. If our council did that, the Attorney General and the state legislature would be saying we should be arrested for violating the Brown Act. Most rules they do, they exempt themselves from the same rules they're asking us to do, and to me, that's very hypocritical. The loan program, which is similar to what the city of Bell did, the Attorney General and everyone else is trying to prosecute the city of Bell officials like they should. Yet the Attorney General's office themselves participated in the program. He should be prosecuting himself and holding himself to the same standard. John Chang said it is too complicated to post their salaries. They could not meet the deadline that the city of West Covina was required to meet to post our salaries. John Chang said it's too complicated and they need an additional year. That is a damn hypocrite, and you should have to live up to what you're doing. John Chang is auditing a lot of people when these things like the $100 million loan program you heard, people were paid, people took travel money, never traveled or didn't reimburse the money as required by law, and since the state never found out about it because they were too busy trying to screw with everyone else, it is too late now. They can't go back after the $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000 they loaned you. They can't go back and get the money, and to me it's just a tragedy. And you see this type of stuff happening all over, and to me it is very hypocritical when a lot of the people are there. Governor Brown was the Attorney General who went after the city of Bell, and he's sitting silent on these issues. It's time for Governor Brown to speak up and hold everyone else accountable, and it's time for the state legislature to have their caucuses allow public newspapers and people, the public, inside their caucuses so we can see how things are doing. Because the things you always hear about, and I think there's some legislation from our current assembly member, they talk about that you may get money from developers. Well, there's also another way to look at that. People also potentially are going after people who may have not made donations to them. So you need to have, I would love to see Assemblyman Hernandez send out his mailing list of who didn't mail money back, and that may lead us to why some of these things are coming forward. You know, it's both sides of the fence you have to look at. It's very wrong just to say you took money from that person. Well, who didn't give you money may be also telling a lot of what you're doing right now. And to me, it's a two-way street. We should all know what everyone's doing.
Okay, any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor. This is just to bring back more information. So, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I did have a kind of a caveat question
Sure.
to that, and I apologize for not doing it before the vote, but there's been some emails going back and forth with the ICA board, taking position on opposing some of these bills that are coming forward. Not only just opposing them, but I know you're looking at saying what they're going to impose on the councils and local government. They need to impose on themselves, which I agree, and that's why I wanted to make sure I seconded the motion, because I think that is just extremely important. But there's so many bills that are coming down that are going to just that don't make sense, and I'm wondering if we're going to kind of go after those as well in kind of a formal thing, or would that be a part of this, or could it be a part of this?
We can do that.
We can bring
maybe-
it back, the items, because there are so many bills going through, and they're going through committee.
Yeah, I'm reading all these bills on here, and there's like
I think that if
15
there-
of them that are just,
Yeah, if there's
insane.
bills that are affecting the city, then I think they should be brought to the council, so I think.
because I
that-
know I don't know, Kevin Stapleton, he's the the chair for the ICA Legislative Committee, and I know they've been discussing it and are very supportive of opposing a lot of these things, because they don't make sense, they're not going to work, and I really think that we
Okay.
need to.
Why don't we
take a
have a
stand on that.
report from the staff, basically, outside of this issue, just
Okay.
addressing current legislation
Okay.
that
Thank
affects
you.
the city.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember.
there's two bills I know out there that have an effect of around $5 million a year to our city's general fund. People don't understand about redevelopment, but it affects us because $2.8 million of redevelopment funds are paid to the general fund. So if they cut out that, since 90% of general fund money is spent on public safety, 2.6 million, 2.5, whatever, 5.5 million, will have to be cut out of public safety. That's what you don't hear behind the rhetoric. You hear all the other things. We also have the ability to, our redevelopment agency owes the city money. We charge an interest rate on that money. They are in the process of slashing that interest rate, so that will have another effect. I think they're talking about lowering it down. The maximum you can charge your agency is 3%, even though if we borrow money on the market, it's higher than 3%. We can only charge ourselves 3%. That will cost us another $2.5 million. And it's easy to cheer and say these people are doing everything up there. If you understand what is actually happening and they're doing to the local level, they're crippling what cities can do, why they go out and do whatever. We're in our PERS situation because they lost billions of dollars, and a lot of the people that did it still sit on the PERS board, which John Chang is one of them. And the city of West Covina themselves lost $70 million in PERS, which we don't get to say how it's invested. They invested in speculatory type investments. One project up in the high desert or in the Santa Clarita area cost the taxpayers $1 billion. A developer who was connected to the PERS board got to borrow all the money from PERS. They invested it in a housing tract that didn't go forward, and they lost everything. The developer lost nothing because it wasn't his money. But the employees of the state of California lost $1 billion. That is absolutely tragic, and as you see, all these people are going through. We're trying to get down through all the PERS separation of what took place. It was a couple people up there that were able to work with the PERS board, and they were able to wine and dine them. And they don't have the same limits, by the way, we do. If you've seen in the paper recently, I believe Sheriff Lee Baca got $70,000 worth of free gifts this year. Okay, a city council member can only get $420 by state law. They can take whatever they want. It's a totally different. They can get whatever from a company, so you understand, a business. If you're a lobbyist, you can only give a legislature a $10 meal. But if you're the company, you can fly them over to France and look at a gas station that you're talking about building in California, and that you can pay for his entire family to go over there, and that's considered okay. But if the lobbyist does it, he's limited to $10. It's terrible.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, that concludes our agenda for tonight. We are going to go into closed session. We hadn't finished what we were discussing, so we'll go back into closed session, and then we'll adjourn out of closed session. Is that what we're going to do?
Motion to recess to closed session?
Okay. Moved in second. We will recess to closed session.